You're about to take part in a ceremony that has been a part of East Liverpool tradition for quite a while. The reason has been because of the amount of respect given from this student body to those who have served our country. Today, we expect nothing less, and we know that you will surpass all of our expectations in those matters. So I thank you for that. And I ask you at this time, as we go through some very type of traditional procedures, we ask you now to please rise in your seats as the colors are presented of the United States of America by the Tri-State Area Burial Group and Eagle Scout candidate Elijah Grogg. Thank you, gentlemen. I now welcome to this podium President of the class of 2026, Mr. Brody Volgamore, and President of Skills USA of this class year, Ms. Cameron Yanni, for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you remain standing. We now proudly present to you the East Liverpool High School Potter Blues Show Choir with our national anthem.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we direct your attention to the East Liverpool High School Pride in Stride Band with their rendition of Spirit of America. Thank you, Pride and Stride Band. We direct your attention now back to the center floor as our 8th grade choir presents a selection of your grand old flag. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that we get to introduce to you on this, our Veterans Day celebration, our tri-state area veterans. Would you please rise and welcome to the floor our veterans of the tri-state area. In attendance today, from our teaching staff, Ms. Michelle Davis, United States Army, Ms. Audrey Grimes, National Guard, Mr. Ed Croxall, United States Army, Alex Wright, United States Marine Corps, Dave Demarest, United States Air Force. Leonard Sipe, United States Air Force. Carlos Montero, United States Army. Troy Butler, United States Marine Corps. From our teaching staff, Denver Chisholm, United States Army National Reserve, National Guard. Jeff Kidder, United States Army. And Jonathan Jackson, United States Army, representing our tri-state area burial group. Ladies and gentlemen, these are our tri-state area veterans. Well-deserved ovation, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Again, it is my great pleasure to welcome not only our veterans here, but also members of their family, and to talk to you today about what is service. We'll be joined by two of our veterans here, but they're seated behind us. We've asked for them to prepare a very special message for you to speak about what is service. Before we can begin this, we do like to say a very special thank you to our Superintendent, Jonathan Ludwig, our principals, Mr. Brian Burson, Mr. Jay Kiger, and Mr. Vincent Fitzolo for making today possible. We also want to say thank you under the direction of Ms. Liz Wines and Mr. Jonathan Freeman, our Director of Building and Grounds. We've been able to prepare this entire area for you to celebrate the veterans in the manner which they deserve. For all of them, we have to say thank you. But before we do any of that, actually, we've already said thank you to them. Before we begin our program, I'd like from my heart to say thank you to the efforts of Mr. Aaron Bunfill and his choir for an incredible national anthem and your grand old flag. To Mr. Joshua Sipe and the Pride and Stride Marching Band, thank you once again for an incredible performance of Spirit of America. And to our veterans in attendance, from me personally, I thank all of you for your service. I thank you for your friendship. I thank you for your guidance. And to my dad, thanks. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to bring us a definition of what is Veterans Day, I bring to the podium now, from our teaching staff, Mr. Jeff Cornfield.
Good morning, everyone. Today, we gather to recognize and honor a very important occasion, Veterans Day. Every year on November 11th, people across the United States pause to remember the brave men and women who have served in our nation's armed forces. This day is not about celebrating war. It's about celebrating the courage, sacrifice, and dedication of those who have defended our freedoms. Veterans Day began as Armistice Day, marking the end of World War I in 1918, the war that was once called the War to End All Wars. The armistice, or truce, went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. In 1954, after World War II and the Korean War, Congress changed the name to Veterans Day to honor all American veterans, past, present, and future. What makes Veterans Day special is that it's a day for everyone who has worn the uniform, not just those who fought in battle, but anyone who has served in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, or Space Force. These individuals gave their time, their energy, and sometimes their lives to protect our country and the freedoms that we often take for granted. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to live without fear. Many veterans return home and continue to serve their communities as teachers, nurses, firefighters, police officers, and leaders. Their commitment to service doesn't stop when they take off the uniform. It continues every day through their actions. So what can we do to honor them? It can be as simple as saying, "Thank you for your service," attending a local parade, volunteering at a veterans hospital, or learning more about the history of our military. Even small gestures of appreciation remind veterans that their sacrifices are not forgotten. On this Veterans Day, let's take a moment to remember that our freedom is not free. It was earned through the courage, dedication, and selflessness of these brave individuals. To all veterans, past, present, and future, we thank you. Happy Veterans Day. It is now my distinct privilege to introduce your first keynote speaker, a gentleman who has been 21 years active in the United States Air Force and currently serves in the 911th Division out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Air Refueling Wing. He has 2 students in the East Liverpool City School District. Please welcome to the podium, Mr. Dave Demarest.
Good morning, Potters. I don't know, I just wanted to say that. How you doing? My name is Master Sergeant David Demarest, 21 years active duty service, as he told you. I was called just the other day to come speak here to talk about what service means to me. And I can tell you right now, there's 2 reasons. They're both sitting right over there. My boys, Riley and Mason, are in my world, and I serve every day for them. And it kind of brings me to an instance in my career that always kind of stood out to me, and I believe it kind of personified everything I do for them. I was deployed 6 times in my career. My first deployment, well, 4 of those were to the desert, 2 of them elsewhere. But my first deployment was to Ali Salim Air Base in Qatar. I'm a crew chief by trade. I fix aircraft and I make them fly. But when I got there, I got this opportunity to volunteer for a convoy team. It was an outside the wire convoy team. I was stoked. I was young, didn't have kids yet, but I always knew I wanted to be a dad. But at that time, I was ready to do whatever I could do. So volunteered for the convoy team, made the team. I was lead truck with the convoy commander, Tech Sergeant Bishop. And it was an amazing experience. But there was one run that we did that I look back at all the time. We ran convoy trucks behind the base down what was called Highway Dallas, also known as the Highway of Death. Google it. As we were going, we were lead truck, Tech Sergeant Bishop was driving. We get over this hill, and once we get over this hill, it's just sand. A concrete road down the middle and nothing but sand, no structures anywhere. And so we're proceeding down the road, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this man appears, and he's just standing right next to the edge of the road. And we don't know where he came from because there's no structures out there. So we immediately stopped, and we assessed the situation. Tech Sergeant Bishop, we didn't have anywhere else to go. We couldn't turn around. It was just a single-lane road. So our only option was to press forward. So in that moment, I'm sure you guys have heard this adage, the best defense is a good, anybody? Exactly. So Tech Sergeant Bishop looked at me and he said, get your M4 and aim it right at that guy. And if he moves, you shoot him. So I'm a crew chief. I'm an aircraft maintainer. And I'm sitting here going, what am I doing? But it was either going to be him or us. So my M4 was wedged in between the seat. I grabbed it, rolled my window down, and I aimed it right at him. And he said, if he moves, if he pulls a cell phone out, you shoot him. And in that entire time, as I'm aiming my rifle down at this man, who I don't know, I'm thinking, I am in a position to either end his life or mine is going to end. Thankfully, he didn't move. We pressed by slowly. I kept my sights on him the entire time until the second truck could get his sights on him, and we followed him the whole time while we passed. Fortunately, nothing happened. We got to our spot, delivered the convoy truck, the concrete trucks. We took a different path out. That experience alone, thank goodness nothing happened, kind of helped me assess the way the rest of my life was going to go. And I knew I always wanted to be a dad. And in that moment, the possibility that chance would never happen was real. And so when I had Riley and Mason, my world, it meant everything to me. And to me, that's what service means to me, is family. And I hope that my boys see the example and know that it's all out of love, and I love you boys. And I'm so happy you're in my life. And thank you guys for letting me speak.
And now I ask to come to the podium someone who knows our next guest speaker pretty well, Mr. Joshua Sipe.
Our next guest speaker enlisted in the Air Force as a 17-year-old in 1975. For the first 9 years of his career, he was enlisted. After graduating from The Ohio State University, he was commissioned as a second lieutenant. He is a former C-130 maintenance officer out of the 179th, located in Mansfield, Ohio. He has also served on staff at the Pentagon for the Sustainment and Integration System. He has deployed to many locations around the world, including Iraq, Afghanistan, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and pretty much every other place you can think on this planet. His military decorations include the Bronze Star, the Meritorious Service Medal, and the Enduring Freedom Service Medal. He has been a Scoutmaster, a Scout Camp Director, an auctioneer, and he is a current substitute teacher in the Hillsdale Local School District. He is a leader in his community, an outstanding role model, and is a prime shining example of what it means to be an American citizen. Please welcome to the podium the man I am proud to call my father, Lieutenant Colonel Len Sipe.
I kind of half expected Josh to text you that introduction. Then I thought there'd be 300 kids that get in trouble if they pulled their cell phone out. So, Josh, good thing you didn't do that. So Josh called me a little while ago and said, would you come over to East Liverpool and talk to us at Veterans Day? I thought, well, Josh, you know, I haven't done any public speaking for about 10 years. What do you want me to say? He said, well, you can say anything you want to. You got 5 minutes. So, okay. So I thought about that, and I found myself thinking about back to when I was a kid. And in our kitchen, we always had a calendar, and on the calendar, there was some dates that had a red number. And the red numbers were important because if it was during the school year, we were probably going to be off. There was going to be no school. November 11th was one of those days, and we had school. But I knew it was special because even as a kid, my dad would take me out to the front yard, and he would display our American flag. So, okay, we got school, but it's important for something. But I didn't quite understand what yet, because I was really quite young. As I got older, Dad took me along with him to the American Legion Hall. And we would enjoy our ham and bean soup dinner. Do you guys still do that? Ham and bean soup? Okay. So I still remember it. And it was a chance for them to catch up with each other and talk about some of the things that they did. At that time, a lot of the Americans, there were almost 40% of all Americans were veterans at that time, because we weren't that far removed from either World War II or Korea, and Vietnam was ongoing. So today the number is only about like 6%, I think. Sound about right? 6% of all Americans, I believe, are veterans. But back then, the number was closer to 40%. So my dad was a veteran, but as a kid, he rarely ever spoke about his time in the Army. I really didn't know what he did. And admittedly, I was a young teenager and was just too foolish to ask him about it. It was his story. He didn't want to tell me, okay. But when I was at the Legion, the guys would start to swap stories. You know, some of them were shared, some of them were different, but they all spoke about their Army. They had bad food, bad weather, dumb second lieutenants, and things they missed about when they were gone from home. And then eventually, they would talk about some of them that didn't come home, and the conversation would kind of just come to an end. So they knew what they were thinking, but that was only for them. So it started to realize to me that these guys were young ones. They weren't always these old timers that we see. They were heroes. They were heroes to someone, maybe to just their families, some of them to their country. And I'm going to tell you about 3 of them. First one I'll tell you about is Chief Petty Officer Chester Winklefoos. Now, old Wink, that's what we called him. He was just an old guy in the neighborhood. He ran the local lock shop. Didn't know much about him. Until I found out that during World War II, Wink, Chief Petty Officer Chester Winklefoos, was a member of the Navy OSS, which became the CIA. His assigned task was to be delivered by a submarine and to infiltrate the Leyte Island 2 months prior to the planned invasion. So for 2 months, him and 2 other guys, they lived on, from this book I read, it was called Liberty Remembers. Wink tells us that they lived on snake meat, roots, berries, and whatever else they could find. When the submarine came back to pick their team up, all of them were so emaciated. They lost so much weight. All of them were covered, their skin was covered with jungle rot, Vietnam veterans. And they didn't really recognize them. They had to prove who they were before they would put them back on the submarine. Later on, when I got married, I found out that my wife's dad, Josh's grandfather, was a member of the 24th Infantry Division, and their task was to invade the island of Leyte, which they did. Maybe the actions that Winklefoos took saved my future father-in-law, Private Tom Reese's life, and made it possible for me to be here, and certainly for Josh to be here. So what I found out was Wink just wasn't an old guy. My father-in-law was just not another person. These guys were heroes. They were real heroes. They did their part to win World War II. So I was grateful for, to come to that realization. I'm glad. If I had to put a title on this presentation, I would call it "Listen to Their Stories." So, Dave, I'm glad you told that. It's something that veterans need a chance to tell. If you're willing to listen, you should take them up on it. The last person I'm going to tell you about was Private Lester Sipe. and he was my dad. I knew he'd been in the war because he always had trouble walking. He walked with a limp, and didn't know why. After he died on November 11th, Veterans Day, 2007, we opened up his safe, and the stuff we found really floored me, took me by surprise. So, at 22 years old, he was assigned to the 25th Infantry Division on some nameless numbered hill in Korea. It was January 1953, and the squad that had that hill prior to them, they were all killed. And the reason they were is because they couldn't get out of their sleeping bags as the Koreans came over to ambush them. So this is January in Korea, temperatures around 15 degrees Fahrenheit. And Dad's squad was ordered to sleep on top of their sleeping bags with their rifles at the ready on crossed arms across their chest. 15 degrees, sleeping on top of their sleeping bags. Well, the PRK, they did come that night. They did attack his squad. So as I think I found out he was 22 years old. His squad was ambushed by the PRK forces, and he was forced into hand-to-hand combat where he shot one Korean, bayoneted another, and hit one over the head with his gun stock. He killed three and then was wounded himself and then evacuated. He also got a Bronze Star for that. And when I think about the Bronze Star that I was awarded, I thought there's just no comparison. And he also got a battlefield promotion to Staff Sergeant and Squad Leader. And you think, well, why did he get a battlefield promotion? Well, the answer is easy. Everybody else was killed. So not only did I live next door to a hero, Chester Winklefoos, I had one in my own house and I didn't know it. So if you can talk to your veterans, please do that. If you got a chance to listen to their stories and they're willing to tell you, take a minute out of your busy schedule and listen to them. So I told you my dad died on November 11th, 2007. 2 months later, I got my orders to deploy to Talil Air Base in southern Iraq. My mom and dad had been married for 56 years. So not only did she lose her husband, you know, I was going to be gone till I don't know when I was going to get home. So not only is it your veterans, it's their families that deserve our thanks. If you see a veteran's family, thank them for what they do. I felt I had the easy job. All I had to go and do is my mission. But Josh and his brother and my wife, they had to stay home and take care of everyday life, which was, in my opinion, way harder than what I had to do. At this point, I've talked about 3 men, but I also want to point out that in today's military, 17% of the military is made up of female airmen, soldiers, seamen. And we need to be aware of that. You know, today's environment, we don't seem to appreciate the contributions that our women make to the military. I served with any number of them while I was deployed, and I can tell you, they could do the job as well as any man that was over there. So hats off to all our female veterans as well as the men. I got 2 more thoughts for you, and one's a quote. You always got to end a military talk with a quote. Yeah. And that was from President Ronald Reagan. He said, Freedom is never more than a generation away. It must be fought for, it must be protected, and it's our responsibility to hand it on to the next generation. We have to commit to that idea and honor the contributions that all of our veterans have made to preserve our Constitution, and we need to do that not only just today, but every day. So when you see that our veterans' hospitals are being defunded, our veterans' affairs are having services taken away from them, we need to be outraged because we owe it to them for what they volunteered to do. East Liverpool High School, thank you for having me. That's all I got to say. Thank you very much.
Before our closing remarks and the retrieval of colors, I would like to ask for members of our audience to show all of us the impact that a veteran has. So if you have a grandparent who happens to be a veteran, would you please rise? Students or staff, you could raise your hands. If you happen to have a grandparent. If you happen to have a parent, please stand or rise if your parent happens to be a veteran. I see your hand up there, Mr. Williams, Ms. Short, Mr. Grant, Ms. Inge, Ms. Smith, Mr. Zink, Mr. Smith. Take a look behind you, Ms. Bisnack up there, Ms. Blakely. And take a moment now, and if your sibling, an older brother or sister happens to be serving, please rise. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the impact that serving our country does, and these are the men and women who have done it for us. For all of them, may we give them a round of applause at this time.
East Liverpool City School District would also like to acknowledge and hold special in our hearts members of the graduating class of 2025 who are currently serving. Gabriella Donaldson, Jacob Gibbous, Aaron Murphy, Chastity Smith, and Micaiah Newland. Finally, before we conclude, we would like to take a moment to remember and reflect those who have had loved ones that are no longer with us and quietly contemplate how they impacted our lives. If you have lost a loved one, please stand now and be recognized as we take a moment of silence. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your dedication and your paying close attention to this. Hopefully you've listened carefully. Mr. Croxall is going to take us in retreating the colors.
At this time, we ask that you please rise as the Kellers are retired. Ladies and gentlemen, this will conclude our program for today. Again, we'd like to say thank you to our veterans here in attendance. We'd like to bring them all out onto the floor at this time, and upon dismissal, if you wish to thank them, you can come out here to talk to them. Ladies and gentlemen of our veterans, could you guys join us here in the middle of the floor, please?
At this time, seniors, you are dismissed back to class. Juniors, you are now dismissed back to class. Sophomores, you are dismissed back to class. Freshmen, you are now dismissed back to class.